you think about the homework question? You think it's okay? You think you need more practice questions, or you think it's too much? Let me know a little bit.
I don't think it was too much. I thought probably the one question you're going to bring up was probably the same question everyone had, which was the most difficult, but everything else seemed okay, and the amount seemed okay.
Okay, good.
But more than that would probably be a little too much for 2 sessions, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I do post more questions at the end of the chapter. So those questions will not be collected. Those questions will not be graded. But those questions are only for the practice purpose. So if you go to the Blackboard and you see there's one session called additional answer key. And I posted the additional questions at the end of the chapter on the Finstra and Taylor announcement. So if you need more questions to practice and to go through the chapter, you are more than welcome to use those questions. And the answer key will be posted, I think, at the end of the weekend. Okay. So I give a couple of the email for this question number 4, which is the general equilibrium model. So, but some of the students actually solved it out already. So I don't know which part of the questions that bother you guys the most, but I think from my previous lecture, the one we talked about the gravity model, that all of the conceptual things are already being discussed. The only things probably is the mathematic tools that we are using here, right? So at least that's the information I get right now. So why don't we just go over it a little bit? I give you more hint about this one. So this is a case of the autarky. What's the meaning of the autarky? Autarky means no trade, right? So you should think that the scenario of this question is that only one person on the island. So he himself as being a producer as well as being a consumer. So we have to imagine that there is a producer and there is a consumer and they trade with each other. So that's basically the autarky, no trade equilibrium here. So based on this, I already give you the production function, right? So F equal to square root of the L. So L, what does it mean? L is the only production input here, right? So L means the labor, right? So if the guy here work more, he could get more food. That's basically the idea. This L is the working hour that you input to your production function, and this one is the output. The food is your output. Okay? So this is the production side. Relatively straightforward. And then what about the demand side? The utility function of this consumer is defined by this. So in your microeconomics courses, what do we call this functional form? We call it Cobb-Douglas, right? So it's named after 2 economists, Cobb-Douglas utility function. And this is one of the special case of what? This is one of the special case of the constant elasticity of substitution. Form of the utility function. Can you? We can see your writing. Hold on. It's weird. Thank you for letting me know. Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay, That's strange. Hold on. So can you guys see now right now? Apologize.
I could see a circle.
Okay, hold on. Let me re-share with you using another computer. Um, Stop sharing. Share files. Okay. Now you should be able to see it. Yes or no?
Yes. What writing do you have? I see the document, but have you written anything?
Yeah, I do. I actually drawing. I circle something.
Oh yeah, I see the circle and a M
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Apologies again. So let me just rephrase again. So this is the production function. Okay. So this is production function. That's what I said before. And then L is the production input, which is the labor. Only production input here. And F is the production output. And this production output will give this consumer utility as well. And this utility function is called Douglas function. And it's one of the special case of the constant elasticity of the substitution function. Okay, so based on this, what do you have to do? The first important things you have to do is to find out the supply side, right? So supply side, you figure out the producer's problem here. So you maximize the profit by choosing the production input. And I already give you the functional form like this. So as you can see, those two, P and W, they are exogenous variable, right? It means they are parameters. So they are just the notation. Don't worry about it. The only thing you need to control is labor, right? So pi means profit here, denotes as a profit. Profit is equal to the price times the total output minus the cost of your production input. And you only have one factor here, which is the labor, and you have to pay the wage to each of the labor. You have to pay the wage for each of the labor. Right? So basically, this is what the meaning of the producer side of the problem. And what's the next? The next is you just take the derivative with respect to the endogenous variable, which is L, and set the first order condition is equal to 0. Then you should be able to find out what is the optimal level of the labor. Okay? So that's the production side. Now you find out a supply from question number 1. Then you need to turn your attention to the demand side. And how do we find out the demand? The demand is based upon the maximum utility of the consumer subject to the resource constraint or the budget constraint. And here, what is your resource constraint? You are going to pay your price for your food smaller than this, right? So this is all you need to do. And set out a Lagrangian once again. Your utility function is equal to this. Oh, sorry, there's a leisure here, so it should be times plus L. then you should be able to figure out. So once you have L star here, you should have the pi star here. And pi star will be a function of L2. So you should be able to figure out. But there's a small trick. As some of you already figure out, in the Cobb-Douglas function, what is the meaning of the power here? It's the fraction of the goods that you have to spend your income, right? So if you know this, you could very easy to figure out this is actually equal to A So of course, you need to let me know what's the optimal level of these two terms. All right. And last but not least, you will find out the labor demand here, and you have a labor supply. Then you could use supply equal to demand and find out the equilibrium wage. That's it. So that's the question I would like to go over. So if you already done it, very good. And this is kind of the level of the difficulty I would expect throughout the course. So in the midterm or in the final, some of the similar question will show up. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the where we left last Wednesday. Let's turn to the page page 21 of the Ricardian Models note. Let me share with you. So, okay, hold on. Determine the pattern of international trade. Okay, so I think this is where we left. Where we left last Wednesday, right? Right? Okay. That means we all good now. Okay, so let's rephrase. Let's review a little bit of the Ricardian model. What do we know about the non-trade equilibrium? So what should we construct it first? So we need to know the production possibility frontier, right? Of each of the country. Say that this is home, and what conditions that we know that we have to know before constructing the production possibility frontier. We need to know the marginal productivity of labor in both of the goods, right? So for example, in a textbook, the marginal productivity of the labor of the wheat in home country is equal to 4. And in plain world, what does it mean? It means one worker in home country can produce 4 bushels of the wheat, right? So I don't want to write it here, or maybe I should write it. One worker could produce 4 bushels of wheat. Okay, remember this is in home country. Remember the subjective country is very important in all of the neoclassical trade model. What else? What do we need to know? I need to know the marginal productivity of the labor in another industry. C represented clothes, right? So in the textbook, the example is 2. So what does it mean? So in home country, a worker could produce 2 yards of clothes, right? So based on this, I have MPL wheat is equal to 4, MPLC equal to 2. What else do I have to know? I need to know the total endowment or the labor population in home country, right? So we denote it as a labor bar. So there's a line above L we call labor bar. So this in the textbook is equal to 25. So now, given this information, can we construct the production possibility frontier in home? We could. If we put the total labor in industry wheat, in wheat industry, how many bushels of the wheat that we could get? We could get 100, exactly. Very good, Jacob. 4 times 25 equal to 100. So if I put the horizontal axis as the quantity of the wheat, this is something I should put, right? So the intercept of the horizontal axis is equal to 100. So by the same token, the clothes, if I put all the total endowment of the labor in the clothes industry, I will get 2 times 25. That's equal to 50. Connected, I will get my PPF in home country. Okay. Okay. So this should be very comfortable to you right now. So the next question is, what is the meaning of the slope of the PPF? The slope means the opportunity cost of the horizontal goods, right? So here it's the opportunity cost of producing wheat. Means what? Means if you want to get additional 1 bushel of the wheat, how many yards of the clothes you have to give up? Okay, in order to get additional bushel of the wheat, how many of the yards of the clothes you have to get up? So what is the slope for this one? The slope is gonna be 1/2, and it's just like raise over the run, right? So the negative just give you what are the meaning of the negative? Negative is just mathematically represents that give up, right? So in exchange of additional bushel of the wheat, you have to give up a half yard of the clothes. Okay, so basically that's it. This is the production. And then if I have the utility, I have the indifferent curve like this, I could pin down the production points and the consumption point under no trade, right? So under no trade system, autarky system, consumption is always equal to the production for both of the country. Okay, so let me pull up the whiteboard. See if I could. Oops, I don't have the whiteboard here. So, whiteboard. Okay, good. So, okay, so this is the home country, right? And if under the no trade system, we should get a point A. A is the production. point also is the consumption point of the country. Okay, then we move on to the foreign. By given some of the condition here. So in the textbook, the following have the marginal productivity of the labor of the wheat industry is equal to 1. MPLC is equal to 1 as well. So the meaning and the notation, it's the same. But the foreign country has a larger endowment in labor, which is 100. So once again, given this, and this, I could plot out the PPF in foreign country. So this is the quantity of the wheat produced, quantity of the clothes produced. And if I put all the labor in clothes industry, I could get 100 yards of the clothes. If I put all the labor in wheat industry, I can get 100 bushel of the wheat. Right? And then if I have the indifferent curve, the utility function of the foreign country, I could pin down the production point and the consumption point as well in a foreign country, right? Okay, so basically that's what we left last week. That's the brief refreshment of the refresh of the last week. Okay, so think about that. What is the relative price of the wheat in home country? We know because home country is a perfect competitive market in both of the goods. The price of the relative price of two goods are equal to the marginal productivity of two goods. But remember, it's a reciprocal, right? And this is based on this. This is based on this. And how do we get this equation? This means the labor are free to move around the industry, right? The wage in the wheat industry is equal to the wage in the clothes industry. Okay, so relative price play an important role in Ricardian model. Relative price in autarky should equal to the opportunity cost. Okay, so relative price of the wheat should equal to the opportunity of the wheat in no trade scenario. And it's the same here. It's the same thing here. So foreign under the no trade scenario, under the no trade circumstances, PW star over PC star should equal to the ratio of this two terms, which is equal to 1. Right? So now you can figure out that two country under the autarky. Okay, so two country. Can I erase right now, or should I pause a little bit?
Can you hold on 1 second?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, thanks for letting me know, Mel. Thank you.
Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
If anybody needs some more minutes, just jump in, shout out, or use the chat room. Let me know. That we are going to go over the core of the Ricardian model today. So this is important. Okay. So now I have this. I have the no trade scenario. So now under no trade, or you will get a term called autarky. Today, home country's relative price of the wheat over the close are equal to 1/2. Foreign country are going to be 1. So you see, there are differences between them. So after the free trade, Ricardian model tell us what? There will be a international price, which makes the home price and the foreign price become identical. So in this case, the books tells us if right now we assume that the notation is like the word. Okay, so this is the word trade price of the wheat over the trade price of clothes. If this ratio is equal to 2/3, so this is equal to 0.667 something. If this is equal to this, what will happen in the both in a market in both countries? So let's take a look of the home country first. Okay. Somebody left the session. Home country first. So I have the slope. Originally it's like this. I have my production point and my consumption point in A. So if I told you the slope of the production, I can erase this one. So can you guys bear with me? If I erase it, the whole blackboard will be gone again. Should be fine, right? So the original slope is 1/2. But now the price become 2/3. So you see the relative price originally is 1/2. The world trade price is 2/3. So the resources budget constraint, the resources constraint will rotate out. Why? Because if the country specializes in production of the goods, that he has the comparative advantage, should be this point. So this point, the corner point, supposed to be on the new production constraint as well. Okay, so this is the new production constraint. And it went through the specialized point, which is here. Okay, and then the new consumption point was supposed to be here. So in a book, it tells you after the free trade, the consumption point which is C here, it's not equal to the production point, which is B here. So that's the reason why you need to trade, right? Think about that. Your consumption point is C, and then your, let me see if I could change the color. Your consumption point is C, and then your production point is B. So in terms of the wheat, that means what? Means you excess produce the wheat, right? However, you didn't produce any of the home country didn't produce any of the clothes, and their consumption of the clothes, it's here. Here is the excess demand of clothes. So as you could see, this part and this part, like a small triangle here, sometimes we call it trade triangle. So it gives you the how much of the goods that you are going to export and how much of the goods you are going to import. And this is from the perspective of the home country. So I think in the book, the point A is 50-50. Okay, so means this is 50-50. And then B is 100 and 0. And C is 40-60. So how much does the home country produce right now? Home country export to the international market right now. The home country's consumer only consume 40 bushels of the wheat, but they produce 100 bushels of the wheat. So the differences are 100 minus 40. That's equal to 60. And this is under the relative price of the wheat equal to 2/3. Okay? That's basically the idea. Let's think about what happened to the foreign country. We will go over the PowerPoint slides later on, but I just want to go, go over the Ricardian model in my own words with you, and to let you understand what is the Ricardian model tells you. Okay, so one of the important things is that the Ricardian model tells you that the country will specialize, right? They will only produce the goods they have the comparative advantage. So there's a term in economics called perfect specialization. Specialization means you put your only endowment into the industry that you have the comparative advantage, and you get out all the other industry. So you will produce nothing for the goods you have comparative disadvantage, and then you produce everything. You put all your endowment into the industry that you have the comparative advantage. So this is from the perspective of the home country. So let's take a look at what happened in the foreign country. Can I erase right now?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Did not mean to. Okay. All capital. Get it. Thank you, Mel. Don't worry. Yeah. All cap. It's fine. Okay. So then let's take a look at the foreign country. Foreign country. Go back to the original setting. We have clothes. We have wheat. And then MPLC, MPL wheat. It's equal to 1, equal to 1. And then L star, it's equal to 100. So the intercept, it's equal to 100, 100. Right? Under the autarky, production, it's equal to consumption. So that's gonna be like this. What is the number that they give? Just a second. Number is still 50-50. Original production is 50, 50. So the consumption, no trade. Production for wheat and clothes, it's equal to 50, 50. Consumption for wheat, clothes are 50, 50. Okay, after the trade, right now, originally what's the relative price? The relative price is equal to 1, and this is because MPLC over MPLW is equal to 1, right? But after the free trade, we know that the world trade price is equal to 2/3. Okay, so foreign country will export clothes, will import wheat, and the relative price become like this, right? So you see, originally, what's the slope here? Originally, the slope of the budget, the resource constraint is -1. Now, if you take a look of the mathematical equation here, the slope becomes -2/3, right? So in some sense, the slope of the production frontier become flatter. Okay, become flatter. And in home country, the production frontier becomes steeper. That is always the case for the Ricardian model. Okay, and now since the production after the trade becomes 0, 100 here, means foreign country specializing producing clothes, right? So they put all the endowment, which is the labor, into the clothes industry, which is the industry that foreign countries have the comparative advantage, and give up the production of the industry without the comparative advantage. So now, this is the production points of the country, foreign country. So if we know the indifferent curve or the utility function of the foreign country's consumer, then we should be able to get another point called C. C is the consumption point of the foreign country. Right? So once again, what Ricardian model tells you, the production and the consumption will be separate. So under no trade, under the circumstances of the no trade condition, production and the consumption are in A, they overlapped it. But now, since there's free trade between two countries, the country will specialize in the goods, they have the comparative advantage. So in foreign countries' perspective, the industry has a comparative advantage is the clothes. A comparative disadvantage for the foreign country is the wheat. So where is the trade triangle right now? You have production here, you have the consumption here, right? So for the foreign country, they will export clothes in exchange for the import of wheat. Right? So if I give you the number of the point C, which is 60/60 in a book, what is the unit of import of the wheat here? The consumer in a foreign country consumes 60 bushels of the wheat.
They import 6.
60, exactly. but they didn't produce any of the wheat, right? This is their production bundle here. They produce nothing of the wheat, but they consume 60 of the wheat. So they have to import 60 bushels of the wheat, and they have to export 100 minus 60. So 100 minus 60, that's equal to 40 yards of the clothes. Okay, so that basically is the spirit of the Ricardian model. Okay, let me just finish it so that we could get into the PowerPoint slides and I could go over one more time with you. Can I erase it? Can I erase it? Okay. So the next step is what? We already have the trade pattern, right? So now we already have the trade pattern. Means I know which country export what and how much, right? So now I already have the trade pattern. For home country, I export 60 of the wheat and import how much? Import 60 of the clothes, right? And foreign country, they export, sorry, here should be 40. 40 clothes, import 60 wheat, right? So now I already have the trade patterns, and I know the two schemes. One is no trade, one is under free trade. I have two different relative price for two different countries. What can I do? I can draw the uh, the supply and demand curve of the international trade market. Let's take a look at the wheat trade market. Okay, think about that. If we talk about the market in microeconomics, what do we usually put on the vertical axis? Usually it's the price, right? Thank you. Yeah, somebody want to talk? No? Yes? Sorry. Yep. So price. And here, the goods we care, the price we care is the international relative price of the goods. What about the quantity? Since we are looking at the wheat market, we put the quantity of the wheat in the horizontal axis, right? So let's think about the supply first. Who is the supplier of the international wheat? Who is the supplier of the trade wheat in the international trade market? It's gonna be the home country, exactly, because they produce more than they consume, right? Home country have the comparative advantage in producing the wheat, and they specialize in producing the wheat, and they consume less than they produce. So they are the exporter of the wheat. So here will be a flat line until the perfect specialization. So here, the original relative price of the wheat is equal to a half. And this is calculated out by the home country's marginal productivity of labor wheat. Right? So this part means they will export the wheat under this price. But after the maximum level they consume, the consumption level originally they have, the price goes up into a free trade scenario that become 2/3. And we will have, they are going to export 60 bushels of the wheat. So this line will be the supply of the wheat in the international market. On the other hand, the foreign country originally their price vector is equal to 1, right? This is calculated based on this. So they will export they will import the wheat. So they're going to be the demand, right? So they are going to import the wheat until 50, and the price, when the international price become 2/3. So these are going to be the demand curve of the wheat. Okay, so you might feel a little bit strange because everything here are arbitrary, right? I didn't tell you how we get the international price after the free trade. The price is become 2/3. I only told you it's because it's 2/3. I give you the number already. The textbook give you the number. But in the higher end of the international trade economics, you should be able to find out how do you determine this? By using the excess demand and excess supply in the market. Okay? Let's go over, that's basically the idea of the Ricardian model that we left last week. Let's go over the PowerPoint slides altogether. Can I erase right now? Can I move on? Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Delia. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Mel. Thank you. Yep, Jordan, thank you. Hope this is clear for you because this absolutely will show up in the midterm. Okay, so Ricardian slides. Let me just go over it one more time with you. So, so we will know what international trade equilibrium, right? So what happens when goods are traded between home and foreign? We will see that the country's no trade relative price determine which produce it will export, which it will import, right? So we will know the trade pattern. No trade relative price equals its opportunity cost of the production, right? So here, this, right? Sorry, the opportunity cost is equal to the relative price. The pattern of the exports and import will be determined by the opportunity cost of the production each of the country, their comparative advantage. Remember that last week I told you a small trick. How do you determine like which country to produce which export or import which goods, or which goods they have the comparative advantage? Anybody remember that trick? Home country, original their triangle, 50 and 100. Foreign country, 100 100. So, like using some of the knowledge in geometries, like this angle should be smaller than this angle. Even though it doesn't look like this. Well, yeah. So because the slope is the absolute value of the slope is smaller, right, than this one. So this angle R, so this angle R smaller than this angle. So this angle means what? Means the opportunity cost of the horizontal goods. So home country in this sense should export the horizontal goods and import the vertical goods. And foreign country, in another hand, because their smaller angle is here, right? This one should be smaller than this one. The smaller angle is here, so foreign countries should export the vertical axis good, which is close, and import the wheat. That's it. Okay, very quickly, move on. Examine each country's no trade relative price. We could determine which product it will export or it will import. PC over PW is equal to 1, right? I write like this before. In home country, it's 2. Therefore, foreign will want to export close to home, and they can make for $1 and export it for more than $1. Right? So that's the reason why. That's the reason why after the free trade, the relative price will between those two. Right? Producing cost in home country for the wheat is here. After the free trade, that's something that they can get. So of course they will produce as much as they can in wheat. So if you flip the equation, if you flip it, this is something you could get, right? So what does it mean? After the free trade, the foreign countries, this is their opportunity cost, the cost for them to produce the clothes. This is the revenue that the firms in the foreign country can get. So that's the reason why after the free trade, the whole endowment of the foreign country will be put into the clothes industry. So both countries export the goods for which they have the comparative advantage. It's coming from here. So one more thing, the world price line, it's the term I use for like trade price, shows the range of the consumption possibility that a country can achieve by specializing in one of the goods and engaging in international trade. What does it mean? Think about the home country. This is my budget constraint. This is my resources constraint at the beginning. And this is also the possibility of my consumption, right? No matter what my utility looks like, my utility could look like this, my utility could look like this, my utility could look like this. I have to make my production and consumption points on this line. So this is the consumption possibility line under the no trade scenario, under the no trade circumstances. But now, since I have the trade with the other country, the price vector increase, so my consumption possibility increase. So you see, originally this is my utility, and this is my utility after the trade. And as I said last week, when the utility function moved toward to the northeast side on this space means the utility increase. right? And this is the meaning of the gain from trade. Okay. So very quickly, I'll go over the concept once again. A is the no trade consumption, no trade production. B is the trade production. C is the consumption after the trade. So once again, production is here, consumption is here. You have the triangle shows up here, right? And remember, this is the smaller angle in the original diagram, right? In the original diagram, this is a smaller angle. Means what? Means this country are going to export this goods and import this goods. By how many? They are going to they are going to export the differences between the consumption and the production, which is 100 minus 40 equal to 60. And they are going to import the consumption minus the production, which is 40 minus 0. That's equal to 40. Right? Very quickly, let's move on to, and I see the utility move from U1 to U2 means the utility increase, and that's called a gain from trade. So the home country have the gain from trade. The consumer in the home country increase their utility due to the specialization in the production, due to the export of the uh, goods. They have the comparative advantage. Turn our attention to the foreign country. This is my original production possibility frontier. Now this is my new resources, or you could say the trade price, world price line, which is equal to 2/3, right? So remember that the home country, originally the home country, there after the trade, the production possibility function, it's rotate out, becomes steeper. So on the other hand, on the flip side, the foreign country should be fatter, right? Originally is like this, become like this. That's because this is the point that the foreign country's consumer and producer has to go through, because they want to specialize in the goods. They have the comparative advantage. So the final consumption will be like this, and this is your original autarky, no trade production and consumption. This is the production. So where is the triangle? Again, the triangle is here. You export because you produce more than you consume in terms of the clothes, right? And foreign country produce 0 bushels of the wheat. So foreign or import 60 bushels of the wheat. Okay, and once again, foreign country have the gain from trade because the utility is increased from U1 star to U2 star. Okay, so a little bit of the wrap up of the Ricardian model. Each country is exporting the goods for which it has the comparative advantage. This confirms that the trade pattern is determined by comparative advantage. This is the first lesson of the Ricardian model. Okay, so they will export the goods with comparative advantage. And there's a gain from trade for both of the countries. This is the second point for Ricardian model. And we are going to take a look at what about a wage. Okay, so solving the wage across the country. Think about that. If you're in the home country, what is the goods that you produce? The goods that you produce is the wheat. You produce wheat in exchange of the clothes, right? So everything in terms of the wheat, this is the wage of the wage of the labor in wheat industry, because both goods are in a competitive market, perfect competition market assumption, right? We assume the goods are in a perfect competition, so wage of the worker should equal to the marginal productivity of the worker. Okay, so this is something in home country. And in terms of the clothes, how do we convert it in clothes? We now know that this will hold worldwide. Right? So MPLW MPs, let me hold on. So this will hold worldwide. P. Okay, so now I know in home country. In terms of the clothes, this should be, that's equal to the new trade price times the original marginal productivity of labor in wheat. That's equal to 8/3, right? So the wage, the real wage of the workers in home country could be represented by either this way or this way. They are both the same because they're using the price ratio by this vector, right? And what about a foreign country's worker? Foreign country's worker, they produce 1 yard of the clothes, right? They're totally specialized in producing the clothes. However, right now, the marginal productivity of the labor in wheat in the foreign country is equal to this term. So that will equal to what? PC star over PW star is the reciprocal of the PW over PC under the free trade war. So that's equal to 3/2 times 1. Right? So as you can see, home country's labor, their wage is higher than the foreign country's labor's wage. Why? It's because home country has the absolute advantage in production. So think about that. The MPL W is equal to 4. MPL C is equal to 2. MPL W star is equal to 1. MPL C star is equal to 1. If you only take a look at those two terms, the home country's productivity is higher than the productivity per labor in a foreign country in both of the industries. So that's the reason why it says the comparative advantage determines the pattern of the trade. However, the absolute advantage of the country determines the wage, the return of the factor. Okay. Yeah, I think I go over this. Okay, so this just gives you a simple application of the labor productivity and wage. So as we talked about this before, if the productivity is higher, the wage is supposed to be higher, right? And this seems like almost fit the pattern. But there are some of the weird inconsistent with our theoretical model. It's those three countries, right? In compare with the United States, the Sweden's or French workers and Italian workers, their productivity is lower. However, their wage is higher. And in the books, it tells you it's because of what? It's because you have to count the benefits and uh, uh, other additional benefits that is non-cash, right? For example, like what? Like their pension fund or their labor union, right? Like labor union or insurance, health insurance of the worker, it's higher. So that's the reason why it gives you some of the empirically, the data shows that in some of the European countries, their productivity is lower than America, but their wage is actually higher because those wage, um, it's not only the value added, not only the value added uh, per worker, you have to include the extra benefit of the worker. Another application is that the productivity and the wages, they actually could draw out like this. It's the dynamic one. It's a uh, time series data. The productivity and wage could graph over time as well. So graph over time. A general upward movement in labor productivity is matched by the upward movement in wage, as predicted by the Ricardian model. And why is that? Why is the after 1970 to 2012, uh, most of the countries, their productivity and the wage are going to be higher? Remember, in the first chapter, we are living in the second golden age of the trade, right? We are living a world under the construction of the general agreement of the trade and tariff or the World Trade Organization. So the trade between the country increased after the World War II. So the wage and the productivity of each country is. Okay, that just showed you the example. Okay, and last but not least, I already showed you how do we write out how do we graph out the trade market equilibrium. So once again, this is home export supply curve. If the relative price is still at the same under the autarky equilibrium, so PW over PC it's equal to 1/2 originally. So this is the home export the home country will export 0 to 50 under this price, right? This is just equal to the price, the relative price without a trade. But after 50, when they try to export more, the price will goes up. And we know one of the points at 60, this is determined by the world trade equilibrium. So this are going to be the supply curve. On the other hand, who is the demand of the international wheat? It's gonna be the foreign country, right? Originally, they demand the foreign will import 0 to 50 bushel of the wheat at a relative price of 1, like this. But then after the free trade, we will see 60 here, and the relative price of goods will become like this. So based on this, you should be able, this is the wheat market, right? So based on this, you should be able to draw out the closed market as well. So wheat, who is the supplier of the wheat? Supplier is the home country, and demand is the foreign country. However, the supply are going to be flip side, right? So the supply are going to be the foreign country. They export the clothes to the home country because they have the comparative advantage in producing clothes. And demand of the international clothes are coming from the home country. Okay? So if you think about that, the international market of the clothes should look like what? Should look like what's the price vector here? originally this is 2, and this is 2/3, and this is 1, right? So demand becomes home country demands the clothes of the becomes the demand becomes the consumer of the clothes, and for the foreign country become a supplier of the clothes. It should be 40. Sorry, it should be 40. Should be 40 or 60. No, never mind. Don't worry. Just let you know you have to able to figure out the international trade market of the clothes as well. Okay, and last but not least, there's one more term I would like to mention is that what is the meaning of the terms of the trade? So terms of trade is the price of the is the price ratio. Okay, so the price ratio of two goods. If you only have two goods and you produce two goods, it's the price of the exporting goods over the price of the importing goods. So people sometimes tell you that if your terms of trade, getting better means what? Means the goods you're selling out to the other country increase relatively more than the goods that you import. They could both be increased, but this one increased more. Okay, let's go over the terms here. So, the terms of the trade, the price of the country's export divided by the price of its imports, it's called the terms of the trade. Because home export of wheat, so export its wheat, import its clothes, it's terms of the trade. However, the foreign countries' terms of trade are the reciprocal, right? 1 over the home country's terms of the trade. So TOTF should be right like this. Home. Okay? And rest of the part is just the textbook give you the example of whether the terms of the trade of the primary commodities, what's the primary commodity? It's the agricultural products and mineral product, or agricultural cultural product and mineral product. What's their price? Are they going to increase all the time, or they decrease, or they fluctuate? And there are some of the theory and hypothesis tells you that some of them support that they are going to increase, some of them support that they are going to decrease. But in reality, some of the goods are constantly decrease, and some of the goods are constantly increase, and some of the goods are just fluctuate. Okay, so I will pause a little bit. We will come back in 15 minutes. So that will be 7:40. We will come back for today's lecture, and I will move on to the specific factor model. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, let's get back to the next chapter. Okay, any questions so far? I saw some of you are discussing about like forming a study group. I think that's exactly a very good idea. If you want, if everybody permits, I could, like send out a group mail to like the leader of the students, and maybe you guys could use the email to communicate with each other. If you would like, let me know what you think, or if you prefer to stay by yourself alone, feel free to do so and let me know. Or like, does anybody have any kind of the proposal for like forming out a study group? You could use this time. I give you like 2 or 3 minutes to discuss with it. Because I saw somebody discuss like Either you are using the WeChat or like what's the other WhatsApp or any kind of the social media. Okay, if you want for me to create the groups in Blackboard, I could do so. Is everybody okay with it? Okay, okay. Well, maybe let me ask you: is anybody against with forming a group? You don't want to share your information? No? Okay. So I will try to figure it out tonight. Well, thank you for your suggestion, Peter. Okay, so let's move on to the chapter 3 of the Finkstar and Taylor. So this chapter is actually a little bit of the extension of the Ricardian model, and so as to try to pave the way for the next chapter that's called the Hex Rolling Model. So remember that there are 4 different kind of the the forces behind the international trade, right? So the first one is the proximity. That's we covered in the first week. That's the gravity models uh, area. The second one, differences in the technology. And the third one, the differences in the country's endowment. The last one, the ability of the offshoring or the ability of the globalization, right? So now we are in the second to the third part of those factors behind the trade. So we already discussed in the ancient model, the Ricardian model, only the pure force to push the trade, the incentive behind the trade, it's it's merely due to the differences in technology. So the country with the comparative advantage in one goods will export that goods, and on the flip side, the other country with the comparative advantage of the other goods will export another good. And now, why we need another model? Think about that. We started from the basic model, it's Ricardian. Ricardian is useful, and sometimes you can interpret a lot of things from it. Most people are agree with the uh, Ricardian's insight. But why we need another additional model? One of the reasons probably is because we put up so many assumptions, right? The assumptions are too perfect. It's not gonna work in the real world. For example, one of the critical assumption in the Ricardian model is we only use one production factor, that is labor, in production function, right? And that labor magically, that labor could switch from the industry to industry. So he has no problems to be a farmer, and then suddenly becomes a manufacturer of the clothes, right? So just let me briefly give you some of the introduction of the specific factor model. So remember that the Ricardian model is what? The model is a two country, two goods, and one factor, right? So factor is labor. However, in a uh, next couple few more chapter in this book, the we are going to the world of two countries, two goods, and two factors. Okay, and now I have actually three factors here. But three factors we can categorize into two. One is called fixed or specific. So in this textbooks, this one is gonna be the capital and then. Okay? Another factor, production factor, is the labor. And labor could move freely across the industry. So this assumption in the Ricardian model still carry on. What we have more is I have two specific factors. One is called capital and one is called land. That's it. Okay, go back to the slides. The argument from the Ricardian model that trade generates gain for all workers is too simple, okay, too perfect, because labor is the only factor of production in that model. So we know this probably is not true in our real world, right? So you probably need like at least labor and capital to produce. Right? In our Cope-Douglas assumption, usually it's that. So we will relax the assumption with the specific factor model, which is the core of this chapter, where land can be used only in agriculture sector, and capital can be used in only manufacturing sector. All right, so I have two fixed factor. Okay, and those factors could be only used in their industry, either manufacture or agriculture. So this assumption is a little bit weird too, you know. Think about that. If you are the entrepreneur and opening up a firm, opening up a factory, you still need a land, right? And if you are the farmer, especially the farmers in the United States, you still need a lot of capital. You need a lot of equipment. You need to buy the machines to help you to grow your plant. Okay? So it's still too ideal. That's the reason why we need to still push our model to become more real, in the coming few chapters. Okay. Third point, from Ricardian model, we learned that the free trade affect relative price, and this in turn affect the earning of the factors of the production. Okay. So what do we have? In Ricardian model, we know the free trade will change the relative price, right? After the trade, the relative price or the opportunity cost of the goods will change. And we further figure out that the wage in two different industry in different countries will be different too. So this specific factor model actually extend that perspective from the Ricardian model a little bit. Finally, the question addressed by specific model is how trade through change in relative price affect the earnings of labor, land, and capital. So still, you could say that a specific factor model is could be categorized in like the differences in the technology is the force behind the trade. But we are going to take a deeper look of how the relative price change in a war will affect the return of the labor, which is the wage, the return of the land, which is the rent, the return of the capital, usually is the interest. Okay, so can I move on? So once again, we have two countries. So home, okay, thank you. Home and foreign, thank you. Manufacturing only use labor and capital. Agriculture use labor and land. All right, so who is the, what is the factor that both sector commonly use? It's the labor. And what is the name, what is the things that the name of this this model are telling us? The specific factor for the manufacturing sector is the capital, right? And for the agricultural sector, the specific factor is the land. Okay? And next point probably is the most important things in compare with the Ricardian model. So in Ricardian model, we assume what? Do we assume diminishing return to scale? We assume each of the labor, their production, it's a constant, right? For example, in home countries, in previous chapter, the home country, the Ricardian model, in the Ricardian model, we assume that If you hire one more labor, or if you hire one more hour of the labor, your marginal productivity is equal to 4. And this is gonna be fixed all the time. But this is another case when we consider another factor. We have the diminishing return of the factor. Can anybody tell me why this is the case if you have the two factors? You could give me the example, you could use the mathematical equation, you could use the economic logic, anything. So think about that. Think about that. If you open it up a factory, and what you need is equipment and labor. You need somebody to control. You need somebody to steer the machine for you, so that you could produce your products and your goods, right? So originally, probably you have 10 machines, and each of the machine needs one person to control it. Each of the machine needs one person to stand by the machine, and then the machine can run. So if you have 10 machines in the beginning, and you only have one person, one labor in the beginning, what is the total production looks like? If you hire one more people, your production should increase like this. So originally, your production should be increased in the increasing rate, right? But if you hire 10 people, until 10 people, and you still have 10 machines, now it's the full capacity. If you hire another additional labor, for example, the 11 labor, what do you think about the productivity of the whole factory?
Decrease
Your,
or marginal. Or,
hold on. So what decrease? It's the total production decrease or marginal production decrease?
I think it's your marginal production decrease.
Okay, very good. So your total production, once you hire more than full capacity, your total production should still increasing, but increasing in a decreasing rate, right? So like Jacob just said, originally your total production maybe is increasing in an increasing rate, and then it stopped at a full capacity, and now you increase, but you increase in a decreasing rate, right? And what if I still hire more people, more labor become redundant, they are less productive, total productivity probably will drop, right? So this is the case of the diminishing return we will see in the next slides. Okay, so this is what I mean. So for example, let's take a look at the left-hand side of the panel here. And the horizontal axis here, it's the labor in the manufacturing. So this could be like the total labor that you hire. And this will be the manufacturing output in the vertical axis. So what is the meaning of the diminishing marginal productivity of the labor? So think about that. Originally, if you hire the first labor, this is this increment, the triangle here, this increment is the increase in your manufacturing output. Okay, by the same token, if you hire the second one, this is something you get. Right, so this is the first labor, this is the second one. What about the third one? Right, so if you take a deeper look in this diagram, if your total production curve is look like this, that means your production is still increasing. Still increasing. but increasing in a decreasing rate. Right? So if I use mathematical terms, the slope here, the small segment of the slope here, it's one of the points in the marginal product of the labor here. So for example, this could be mapping to here. Second labor you hire give you smaller marginal productivity of the labor, which is this part. And a third labor you hire give you even smaller of the MPL. At last, this is what you get. This is the last one. Okay, so let me just go back to, I think the best way to learn this model is if you understand this diagram, I think all of the problem will be solved. The best way to learn this one is to compare with the Ricardian model. Think about that. What do we assume in Ricardian model? We assume in Ricardian model is the MPL, it's a constant, right? So means what? Means MPL, it's not look like this. Instead, it's look like this. All right, so this is the line for the MPL in Ricardian model. And what does it mean in the total productivity line, total production line? It's like this. It's a straight line. So you won't have a curve like this and flatten. All right, so you will not have the diminishing return. You will have a constant return. That's the difference. And this simply is because I already have another additional production input, which is capital in manufacture and land in agriculture. Okay? So, once again, this is our old friend, right? Production possibilities frontier. Okay? So remember that in Ricardian model, the one we just went over today, this is our PPF. And this are two different goods that we have. So the vertical axis and the horizontal axis, they are the same. The only difference is it's the assumption in the return to scale, right? If right now the diminishing return to scale is the assumption we are looking at, that means my production possibility frontier will be a curve, concave to the origin, like this. Okay, so what does the small triangle represent? This probably it's hard to recognize in the beginning, but if you go back to the PPFE Ricardian model, what does this small triangle represent? It's the opportunity cost of this goods, right? So what does this mean? MPLA divided by MPLM. That means it is the opportunity cost, so OC opportunity cost of producing one more unit of manufacturing output. Right? Means what? Means if I would like to increase the production, additional production of the manufacturing output, how many agricultural outputs I have to give up. So as you can see, this term, the slope of the PPF, once again, should be a negative, right? So this one should be a negative. And negative, once again, means what? Something you have to give up. It's the idea of the opportunity cost. So the production possibility frontier, once again, shows the amount of the agriculture and manufacturing output that can be produced in the economy with labor. The only difference is what? It's no longer a straight line anymore. Instead, it's a concave to the origin. It's a curve that concave to the origin. So, as in the Ricardian model, the slope of the PPF equals the opportunity cost or relative price of the goods on the horizontal axis. And here is the manufacturing. It's identical. And the assumption of the two different sectors, it's the same too. So the wage, okay, firm, the wage in the manufacturing and the wage in the agriculture, they should be equal. Because of what? Because labor is perfectly substitute across the industry, right? So the farmers, the agriculture labor, they could substitute to manufacturers worker seamlessly. They don't need to acquire another skills so that they can move directly. If we think about that, this one, it's the if this one, it's higher than this one, what happened? That means the marginal productivity of the labor in a manufacturing sector, or the value of the marginal productivity of the labor in a manufacturing sector is higher than the value of the marginal productivity of the labor in the agriculture sector. So with the free movement condition of the laborers, the labor could just move to the manufacturers sector, right? And then based on the MPL diagram we have in the very beginning, if I have more labor shows up in this sector, my MPL will decrease. So that this will decrease. And if the labor in the agriculture decrease, the MPL in agriculture is supposed to increase. So this actually is the equilibrium condition in labor market. So let's think about a trade. Everything is similar to the Ricardian model, except for one thing: diminishing return to scale. That's it. Opportunity cost and prices. So originally, if there's no trade, so no trade, that's in green line. Okay, no trade. This is my PPF originally. Okay, and if I know the indifferent curve, which is the preference or utility curve of my representative consumers, at A, it's the production point, as well as what? My consumption point. So based upon this, what is the utility level in no trade scenario? It's the highest utility curve that's tangent to my production possibility frontier, right? Okay. You want me to ask you some of the questions regarding why this one is not, why this curve it's not the maximum utility? It's because this point, the utility function went through this point, you still have the room for improvement. The utility 1 is larger than utility 0, right? So this point is supposed not to be the optimal point. And what about here? In the autarky world, why this point cannot be achieved? It's because simply this point is outside of the production frontier. It's not achievable, right? Okay, so once again, after the trade, we know that trade will make the relative price of the goods change. Okay, so originally this is my relative of the goods, relative price of the goods. So now my relative price of the goods shift up. And this is given a notation like this. So mathematical equations looks like this. Okay, remember that this is relative price. In order to achieve that, you could have multiple scenarios. PA word remain the same, or equal to this. And PMW larger than PM. Or you could have PM. It's in relative terms, right? So the price of the manufactured goods increase more than the price of the agricultural goods after the trade. Okay, so once again, in two-country model, one country are going to export and one country are going to import. But now we are looking at this different trade triangle. This is my consumption point. This is my production point after the trade. Right? This is consumption point, which is the bundle of agricultural output and manufacturing output. This is my production point after the trade. So where is the trade triangle? The trade triangle is going to show up here, right? So for the home country, which goods he export and which goods he import? The home country are going to export manufacturing output. Why? Because he produced more manufacturing output than he consumed. And he is going to import the agricultural output. Why? It's because he consumes more agricultural output than he actually produces. Right? So you see a triangle here? You see a trade triangle. Import agriculture goods. Export manufactured goods. Okay, so in two-country model, one of the things you could assure is what? If home country export manufacturing goods, import agricultural goods. What about a foreign country? Do you need to draw the production frontier once again? You only have two countries, right? So one export is supposed to be another people's import, and one country's import is supposed to be another country's export. So the foreign country is supposed to export the agricultural goods, imports the manufactured goods. Let's stare at this diagram longer, a little bit longer. What else do we find there's a difference from the Ricardian model? So remember that Ricardian model, because the production frontier is a straight line. Can I erase now? Hello? Okay. Thank you. Remember that Ricardian model. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Peter. Ricardian model, the production frontier, it's a straight line. So we say that after the free trade, either of the country, they will perfectly specialization, right? So the production points will either move down or move up to the corner. But is this still the case in specific factor model? The answer is no. And this is because the diminishing return play in a role here. So as you can see, the price change after the free trade. This part is the same with the Ricardian model. However, the production output no longer come to the corner of the PVF here. So in specific vector model, after the free trade, there's no perfect specialization. Oopsie. Sorry, yeah. No perfect specialization. But if you're talking about the gains from trade, this new model still give you the proof of the gain from trade, right? Because this is your new consumption point, and this is your original consumption point. Your utility function still increase due to the free trade. Okay, so remember, in compare with the Ricardian model, no perfectly specialization, gains from trade, it still holds. Okay, so the next one should be the foreign country. Relative price. Okay, so next we move on to the construction of the model. So for the foreign country, let's assume that the home no trade relative price of the manufacturing is lower than the foreign relative price. So what does it mean? So originally, this is the relative price of the foreign country. And it's also the opportunity cost of the manufactured goods in foreign country. And this is the relative price of the manufactured goods in home country. And it's also the opportunity cost of the manufacturing goods in home country. So in specific factor model, this means that the home country could produce manufactured goods in a relatively cheaper way than foreign country. Okay? So if you think about this, your goods it's cheaper relatively. Does this imply something in your technology? So for example, home country, their manufacturing goods is cheaper than the agricultural goods. Doesn't it also means that the manufacturing technology is more efficient than agriculture? So you see, we look at from the relative price, but this actually links back to the Ricardian model. The all in all, after all, the technology still playing a part. So our old friend coming back, home has a comparative advantage in manufacturing, and that means what? Home has a comparative disadvantage in agriculture. So like Ricardian model tell us, home countries should export the goods with the comparative advantage. So if we put into the context of the specific factor model means what? Means the country should produce the goods with lower relative price. So the country should export the goods, should export the relatively cheaper goods. So why is because trade will bring the utility for both of the country. It's because of what? Because the relative of the price of the goods will goes up after being exported. So remember that the two goods now we have in two different countries. After the free trade price should be somewhere between, right? So this is the autarky in home. This is autarky price in foreign. And this is the price after free trade. So for the home country, he exports more goods out of manufactured goods. That means what? He could get the return. It's higher than the opportunity cost. Right? So if we flip this mathematical equation, PA over PW, PA, sorry. If we flip this inequality, PA over PM, what is the sign should be? Should be this way, right? Right, the reciprocal, you have to flip your inequality sign. So why the foreign country has to export the agriculture goods? Simply because after the free trade, the price of the agricultural good it's better when they are in the autarky regime. Right? So as you can see, both of the country, they have the incentive to trade with each other. The home country would like to export the cheaper goods, relative cheaper goods, so as the foreign country wants to export the relatively cheaper goods. And both of them are better off because the goods, the revenue you get from selling the goods, it's actually higher than your selling domestically. Okay, so the books give you some of the example of the historical example of a country move from autarky to free trade. So I just want to point out just want to point out one example which is in our additional reading. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Yep. So this one, if you already done the homework in question number 2, Brown's and Benhoven's paper published in 2004 on the Journal of Public Economics talking about this, right? You should take a look and then answer the question on the assignment. So this is one of the examples that the country just suddenly moved from the autarky to the free trade scenario. And unfortunately, this is not voluntarily they open up their border. This is you could go look the I don't want to ruin your I don't want to ruin your time to read that paper. Yeah, so go ahead and take a look at this paper. And some of the other example shown in this book I found interesting is this one. So actually, United States have the in sometimes in the history also have the autarky forced to be autarky at that time. And it's during the Napoleon War, and you could refer to the textbook for like more detailed story. And the term embargo, I think we mentioned in the very first one lecture in this semester. The embargo means what? A complete stop of the oil trade, okay? Or the perfect extension is called embargo. So international community don't want to trade with you anymore, either buying the goods from your market or selling the goods to your market. And for the trade economists believe that embargo is a really bad thing, and so as this become the policy that we use in the international community right now. For example, I believe that Iran and North Korea are still under some kind of sanctions, but not sure it's a perfect sanction like embargo. But once the country cannot trade with the other country, you cannot enjoy the utility function like utility curve shift up like we did in the analysis, right? Okay, so let's move on to the second part of this chapter is determinant of the wage. So if you firstly see this diagram, you might feel a little bit confusing, but this actually is just the combination of the two and flip one of the side. Let's take a look at this one. So think about that. You are in a country, right? So now you have two industry. And wage, okay, so the wage, it's equal to price of the goods times the marginal product of the labor in the industry. Why? Think about it. You have to put yourself into the shoes of the producer, of the manufacturer, of the firm. This is your cost, right? You hire somebody. This is the cost for labor. On the other hand, On the other hand, the right-hand side, this is the revenue of the labor. If you hire additional unit of the labor, or you could think of if you hire one additional hour of the labor, this is the quantity of the goods that the labor or the labor hour to make. And this is the price of the unit goods. So these two terms supposed to be the same, right? If you are the rational firm, if the wage is too high, what you gonna do? You're gonna lay off the people so that the wage will, if the wage is too high, you're gonna hire more people and then more labor will come into your firm so that the wage will be down. If the wage is lower than the revenue, you want to hire more people, so you want to pay more to attract the labor on the market, right? So this is the same thing. So wage of two different sectors could be represented like this. And we already know from the beginning that this is the word of the diminishing return, right? So if this is agriculture, this is manufacture. And this means the labor they hire. This is MPLM. This is MPLA. So labor they hire. And here, if you times a constant of the price of the goods, this becomes the wage, right? So if you could accept this concept like this, if you flip, flip this one to make it as this way. Sorry, yeah, it should be like this. Now, instead of the right-hand side as being the increasing in the labor hiring, left, the arrow toward the left means the higher, increasing labor hiring in agriculture. So what will your PA times MPO look like? It will look like this, right? So now you could figure out why this graph look like a little bit weird here. So this is the total labor supply. So if you want to take a look of the agriculture side, you need to take a look from this exit and here. So the more labor you hire in agriculture, the marginal productivity of labor in agriculture will move like this direction. On the other hand, if you take a look from the perspective of the marginal of the manufacturer industry, labor you hire in manufacture is increased in this way. So now your marginal productivity of the labor is like this. So as you hire more people, as you hire more labor, you employ more labor in manufacturing, your marginal productivity should look like this. So remember that how many industry we have? How many industry we have in this model? We only have two. One is manufacturing, one is agriculture, and it's the same case across the country, right? So if we take a look of one of the countries, just like here, we take a look of the home country, we could find out the equilibrium across the industry. And that is what this graph tells us exactly. This is the LM, so is the LA, and this is the wage. equilibrium wage. So, okay, so say that right now, after the free trade, the world price vector becomes this. That means of what? For the sake of simplicity, PA equal to this, and I move the manufacturer of the world. It's larger than the manufacturer in autarky scenario. It's higher than the autarky scenario. That means what? It means PA it's equal to PA world PM. And this will give you the same thing that we discussed a couple slides ago. Okay, so this will shift up the PM times the value of the marginal productivity of the labor in manufacturing, like this. So where is the equilibrium right now? Since the relative price increase, the new equilibrium should be here. This means what? The home country should hire more labor, right? Should hire more labor in manufacturing sector. On the other hand, originally that's the number of their labor in agriculture sector. Now the sector shrink to here. And the equilibrium wage increase to this point. And that is exactly what we see here. So a couple of things it's worthwhile to take a look is what? Is that after the trade, after the vector of the price, its difference, the wage increase and the price of the goods increase. So let's go back to the beginning. Like take a look of this graph one step by one step. With an increase in the price of the manufactured goods, the curve PM times MPLM shifts up to this. Okay, so shift from this curve to this curve. So the equilibrium wage shifts from point A to B. The labor used in manufacturing raised from this, right? So O sub ML, its original line here, to this. So the hiring in the manufacturer industry in home country increase. Okay, what else? The wage increase from W to W plot, but its increase is less than the upward shift than the delta PM. So it's less than this one. So as you could think, why there's a differences between a wage increase and a price. So you see that this, its increase, those 2 points move along with the other value of the marginal productivity of the labor line. And it has a slope, right? If this one, it's vertical, if this one is vertical, this one is vertical, the increment in the wage will be exactly the same with the increment in the price. It's because there is a slope of this line that makes they have some of the difference here. So what else do we need to know? Okay, the percentage increase, all right? So here you see the percentage increase in the wage is less than the percentage increase in the price of a manufacturing goods. This is important, very important. So the factors increase. The factors fluctuation will be smaller than the product's price. Okay, this inequality means that the amount of the manufactured goods that can be purchased with the wage has fallen. So this, the manufactured goods that could be purchased, it's actually meaning the real wage. Right? So W is the nominal one, means something you get. But what is the real wage? Real wage is the nominal things divided by the price index. Remember the gravity model that we have a fixed price index like this, right? If you divided your nominal wage by the price, you will get a real wage here. So the real wage of the manufactured goods has decreased. Okay, so it's the same thing. Okay, so a little bit, just a conclusion of the specific factor model. So in Ricardian, we never talk about what's the effect on the labor market in Ricardian model, right? So we only talk about that in Ricardian model, everything, two countries become perfect specialization. And then the wage will increase or decrease based upon like their exporting goods and importing goods. But with the assumption of the specific factor model, we see that actually the free trade will have the impact on the other market. Not only have the impact on the good market, but also have the impact on the labor market or other production factors market. So here is why. In a specific factor model, the increase in the price of the manufactured goods has ambiguous effect on real wage. Okay? Therefore, an ambiguous effect on the well-being of the workers. We will see more clearly in later on. There's a numerical model, but I don't think I probably couldn't cover it. So I want to go over this part and then give you some of the idea of what's the meaning of the adjustment cost of a trade. Basically, it's just the government's compensation of the workers, which we run into. We see a lot in the daily news. Like, for example, the NAFTA. Mexico exported labor-intensive good to the U.S. and U.S. exported some of the labor. So in the U.S. Lose their job because the competition of the cheaper labor force from the foreign country, and what the government has to do. Okay, and I will talk about the numerical model in the next on Wednesday. And we will move on to the Hex Rolling Model on Wednesday. So let's see, unemployment. unemployment in specific factor model. Okay, so the first one is just a statement. It is hard to combine business cycle model. Business cycle model means the model with the inflation and unemployment, sometimes called ADS model, aggregate demand and aggregate supply model with international rate model. So it is hard to combine those of them. But we do know that the labor market was affected by the trade market. So let's take a look what is the meaning of the Trade Adjustment Assistance, TAA. So like I said before, Trade Adjustment Assistance means what? Means the government try to compensate a worker who lost their job because of the import competition. So you can see this a lot in the news, in the daily news, right? And some of the example books just showed you that this is the manufacturing employment in the U.S. This is in the level data, so that's the real number, and this is the share of the manufacturing employment to the total employment. So as you can see, starting from 1974 to like relatively current right now, the U.S. Employment in the manufacturing, it's decreasing. So what other industry might have increased due to the increase of the trade, right? So after like starting from this one, the trade across the country should increase. So he give you some of the example. One is the service sector. And the other one is the information service sector. Okay, so I guess some of you some of you privately let me know that they have to go, and I don't want to occupy your time since it's about time to dismiss the class. So I will post the questions that corresponding to today's lecture. I guess probably will be one question on Ricardian model, one more question on the Ricardian model, and one questions on the specific factor model. We actually already almost finished the specific factor model, so I will go relatively quickly on Wednesday night to finish the specific factor model and then try to finish Hex Rolling on Wednesday night so that you could have more questions to practice. Okay, so once again, thank you for your coming, and then let me know if you have any questions via the email or just just let me know, or stop by my office hour on Thursday afternoon, and I will post the questions tonight, and I will try to use the group function as Peter mentioned to help you guys to form the online study group. Thank you all for coming, and have a good night.